Hello and welcome again to Fast Track IELTS. My name is Jordan and I'm one of the OET teachers here. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about both the IELTS and OET exams. And most importantly, we're going to be answering that question of which exam should you take? You know, I speak with a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses who are unsure which exam they should take for NMC, for GMC registration. IELTS has been around for a long time. A lot of people are more familiar with it, let's say. But OET is kind of the new test. But which one should you do? So in this video, we're going to have a look at both of those tests and once and for all answer that question. So let's get to it. So the first thing to mention, of course, is that both of these exams do have challenges. None of these tests are easy as such, and all of them will require work, they will require preparation, but there is definitely a preferred choice. So let's look at some of the arguments on both sides. It's not just a simple OET is easier or IELTS is easier question. There is a little bit more interest in it, a little bit more detail we could go into. So let's have a look at this then. So the first thing to remember, and we made a video on this very recently, which you can also watch, the IELTS exam is cheaper. It's a cheaper test to do. The OET is more expensive. And we've put the price here in British pounds. Of course, you could watch our other video to find out how much that converts over to in different currencies. But the most important thing is, in British pounds, the IELTS test is £180, as we can see here on this page. And then the OET exam is £310. So it is more expensive, you know, it's £130, let's say, more expensive. So that's something that can go into your decision making, you know, and if kind of the price of it is a big factor for you, that's something to keep in mind. But I would really recommend, even though OET is more expensive than IELTS, don't just use the price to make your decision. That's not kind of the best way to do it. The most important things is basically which test is easier, which test is going to give you the highest chance of passing, and which test is going to get you that registration, whether it's for the NMC, for GMC, which is going to kind of get you where you need to go. So let's have a look a little bit into more detail on this topic then. So one of the other points in favour of IELTS is that there are more IELTS test dates. And we can see here for the IELTS exam, there are around 48 tests per year. So every month, you know, nearly every week really, there's going to be an IELTS test. So you're never going to have problems booking your exams. There is always going to be one. The difficulty with OET is that there aren't as many tests. There are around 1 or 2 tests only per month, around 22 per year. And luckily, they've actually recently increased that. Previously, it was around 15 tests per year, which, as you can imagine, wasn't enough, you know. A lot of tests sold out, people missed out and had to wait months in order to do their test. Not as bad anymore. 22 tests means that almost every month there's going to be an exam. But what it does mean about OET is if, let's say, you fail your test and you don't get the grade that you need, it does mean that you might have to wait a month or 2 months before you can take your test again. Whereas with IELTS, you can just book a test for the next week, you know, you're ready to go really. So again, something else to think about. But just like I mentioned with the price a few moments ago, I wouldn't use the dates to make your decision. That's not really the most important thing. The important thing again is which exam is going to give us that higher chance of passing. So let's have a talk about these then. So the first thing to know, and in truth, I would say of all of this video, this is the most important point really. The OET writing exam is much easier. If you have done the IELTS exam before, you know yourself, it is a horrible test. We've got task 1 where we have to talk about the graph, the table. We've got task 2 where we have to write an opinion essay. It's a very difficult exam and we never know what we're going to be talking about in the test. I had a student recently who is doing the OET exam now, but previously she had done the IELTS exam and she was a doctor. And in her IELTS exam, her real test that she went and sat, she had to write an essay about elephants. you know, nothing to do with her knowledge, nothing to do with what she's trying to do, apply with the GMC. She didn't know the first thing about elephants, so of course she failed the test, you know. So something to keep in mind, definitely. But IELTS, we never know what we're going to be talking about. Maybe it's government, maybe it's politics, crime, family, fashion, technology, or different types of topics. We never know what they're going to be. In the OET exam, it is a much more predictable exam. As you know, you probably know already, you're going to be writing a letter regarding a patient, and they're going to give you case notes regarding the patient, and they're going to give you a situation to write about. So you've been caring for a patient at your nursing home, he is feeling better now, and he's going back home, and you've got to write a letter to his local GP to explain what's happened to him. And the good thing about this exam, it's a very predictable test. Similar situations coming out each time, and once you get to know the structure and the grammar of this, it's a very similar letter that you're writing each and every time. With IELTS, we're talking about a different topic in every single task that we write. In OET, it's just one task to write the letter, and as we can see here, it is very, very predictable. And as I said at the beginning of this video, none of these tests are easy. None of them are super easy, but OET writing is definitely much easier than the very difficult IELTS writing exam. So that's kind of one of the big factors. If you're a person that struggles with the writing and has maybe failed the IELTS writing exam before, I would really try and push and convince you to go for the OET now. Something to think about anyway. So the next is the reading exam then, the reading section of the test. And I would say overall, the OET reading exam is a little bit easier. One of the good points is that in IELTS we're going to be using more academic, more general vocabulary. In OET, they're going to be using more healthcare related vocabulary. Words you know, words you've used before, and that just makes it easier to kind of get a good idea of the text and some of those synonyms that they use in the exam as well. And generally speaking, there are different types of sections to the test, and most importantly, in the later parts of the test, parts B, part C of the OET reading exam, they're all going to be multiple choice questions, which means, of course, if we don't know the answer, we can just make a bit of a guess anyway. So something to keep in mind, in IELTS we have very difficult question types. Fill in the blank, true, false, not given, everybody hates those. True, false, not given, really difficult question types. In OET, it's going to be multiple choice, where we just choose the correct answer from the list, and that just makes it a little bit easier. The answer's given for us, and we just choose the correct one. So again, something to think about, but again, the OET reading also just that little bit easier than the IELTS reading. Again, not very easy, but easier. Perfect. So this is where things are a little bit difficult then. So the IELTS listening exam, I would say overall, is a little bit easier than the OET listening exam. Some people complain that there are different accents and the speakers speak quite quickly in the OET reading exam, whereas in IELTS it's a little bit more relaxed, that type of thing. So everybody's a little bit different here. Some people find IELTS, some people find OET easier. It's a matter of opinion, really. It does really depend. Most important thing with both of these tests, whichever one you decide to do, is that you do practice. That's kind of the most important thing with the listening, really. Of course, all areas of the test we want to practice. The listening in particular is one section of the exam where the most important thing to do is practice. Simply put, the more practice tests you do, the better you'll finally score in the exam. Brilliant. And then very finally, the OET speaking exam, once again, we would say is easier. In the IELTS exam, we have to to speak and to have a conversation with an examiner. And it's a very unstructured conversation, meaning they're going to ask you questions and you need to come up with your answers to them. So they could ask you your opinion on a topic, politics, global warming, whatever it might be, and you're going to need to come up with an opinion. In the OET exam, they're going to tell you exactly what it is that you need to talk about. You're going to have a consultation with the patient, as you probably already know, and your job is to just keep that conversation going, read off of your task card, which will explain to you what it is that you need to talk about. So if you're a person that's very good at coming up with opinions and talking about them in a deep, interesting way, then maybe the IELTS is a better choice for you in regards to the speaking. If you prefer to just look at a conversation, have a consultation, and speak with a patient in a more natural way, if you're just naturally good at speaking to patients in real life, then I would definitely recommend the OET exam in that case. Perfect. So overall, I tried to give a couple of different sides why IELTS is better and why OET is better. But if you ask me, for pretty much every healthcare professional, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, I would say choose OET. As we can see here, the writing, the reading, the speaking is easier. Yes, the listening is a little bit harder, but those other sections, especially that writing exam, is horrible in the IELTS test. I would really recommend, especially if you failed the IELTS exam before, moving over to the OET exam. And if you've never done either test before, then I would definitely go for the OET exam. So that's the short answer to the video, really. If you aren't sure about which test to do, go for OET. If you've done IELTS lots of times and maybe you were very, very close and you want to keep going with it, then maybe it's best to keep going with the IELTS. But most importantly, as we can see, OET has a higher pass rate, meaning when nurses take IELTS and OET, more of them pass the OET exam. Overall, it's more designed for your profession and it's an easier test, simply put. So my advice, any healthcare professional, if you're deciding which test to go for the OET. Much easier, definitely. Brilliant. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We've got more videos that are going to be coming out over the coming weeks. If you have a suggestion of a topic that you would like for us to discuss, whatever that might be, leave a message in the comments below and we'll be very, very happy to answer your question. And don't forget to like and subscribe this video also. If you would like more support with your OET or IELTS exam, then don't forget to go to our website, which is passmyielts.com. So again, my name's Jordan, I'm one of the OET teachers, and I look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Thanks a lot.